In the heart of the 16th century, a time of great change and upheaval, a man named Desiderius Erasmus found himself at the center of a maelstrom. Imagine a world where ideas could literally make or break, where the words you spoke or wrote could lead to your excommunication, torture, or even death. This was the world of Erasmus, a world where the church and the state wielded immense power, and anyone who dared to challenge the status quo was met with suspicion, hostility, and often violence. Erasmus, despite being one of the most brilliant minds of his time, was not immune to this fate. In fact, his life is a stark reminder of how dangerous it can be to stand up for what you believe in, especially when those beliefs challenge the powerful. Erasmus was born in 1466, in the city of Rotterdam, in what is now the Netherlands. From a young age, he showed a remarkable intellect and a deep love for learning. He studied at some of the best schools of his time, including the University of Paris, where he immersed himself in the works of classical authors and began to develop his ideas about humanism and the importance of education. Erasmus believed that the key to a better world was knowledge and understanding, and he dedicated his life to promoting these ideals. But the world Erasmus lived in was far from ideal. The Catholic Church, the dominant religious and political institution of the time, was rife with corruption and abuse of power. Priests and bishops lived lavish lifestyles while the poor suffered, and the Church's teachings often seemed more about control than about genuine spirituality. Erasmus saw this and was deeply troubled. He believed that the Church should return to its roots, focusing on the teachings of Jesus and the early Christians rather than on wealth and power. In 1506, Erasmus published his most famous work, the Adagia, a collection of proverbs and sayings from classical literature. This book, along with his later works, including his Latin translation of the New Testament, earned him a reputation as one of the leading scholars of his time, but his ideas also made him many enemies. The Church, particularly the more conservative elements, saw Erasmus as a threat. They accused him of being a heretic, of spreading dangerous ideas that could undermine the authority of the Church. Erasmus's troubles began in earnest when he moved to Cologne in 1517. Cologne was still loyal to the Pope, but rumors of Erasmus's supposed Lutheran sympathies followed him there. People would approach him on the street, accusing him of being the one who had laid the egg Luther hatched. Erasmus would respond with a wry joke, saying, "Yes, but the egg I laid was a hen, whereas Luther has hatched a gamecock." It was his way of acknowledging that while he and Martin Luther shared some ideas, Erasmus was not as radical as Luther. By late 1521, Erasmus was fed up with the constant accusations and decided to move to Basel, Switzerland. Basel was a more tolerant city, and Erasmus hoped to find peace there. For a while, it seemed like he had. He settled among a group of humanists and enjoyed a respite from the constant attacks, but the peace was short-lived. In 1522, a mob in Basel, inflamed by evangelical preachers, rioted and destroyed all the religious images in the city's Catholic churches. Erasmus, who had recently written that the veneration of images was misguided, was horrified by the violence. He believed in reform, but he also believed in moderation and civility. The rioting vandals had gone too far, and Erasmus, disgusted, left Switzerland for Freiburg im Breisgau in Catholic Austria. Freiburg seemed like a safe haven, but it was not. Erasmus's reputation as a potential heretic had preceded him, and the local Augustinians resented his presence. The town council welcomed him, but the church was divided. Erasmus's health was also beginning to decline. He suffered from a range of illnesses, including gallstones, ulcers, gout, dysentery, respiratory disease, arthritis, and pancreatitis. Despite his physical suffering, he continued to write and publish, but the suspicion and hostility he faced were taking a toll. In his final years, Erasmus returned to Basel, where he died in 1536 in the home of Jerome Froben, the son of the scholar publisher who had first published his Latin translation of the New Testament. Even in death, Erasmus could not escape his enemies. The Inquisition, which had been rekindled in Spain, began formal proceedings against him, and 8 years after his death, he was posthumously excommunicated and branded a heretic. All of his works were added to the Index Expurgatorius, making it a sin for any Catholic to read them. Erasmus's story is a tragic one, but it is also a powerful reminder of the importance of standing up for what you believe in, even when it is dangerous. He lived in a time when the church and the state had immense power, and those who challenged them risked everything. Erasmus was not a revolutionary in the same sense as Martin Luther, but he was a reformer. He believed in the power of knowledge and reason to make the world a better place, and he was willing to face the consequences of his beliefs. Erasmus was not alone in his struggles. Many other humanists of his time faced similar challenges. Some, like Jacques Lefebvre d'Etaples, were also ordained priests, and were called upon to help the church root out heresy. Lefebvre, who was nearly 70 years old, was appointed by the Bishop of Meaux to find and punish those with Protestant sympathies. But Lefebvre was a humanist at heart, and he believed in the importance of the Gospels and the original texts of the Bible. He was critical of the church's corruption and the way some priests lived, and for these beliefs he too was accused of heresy. He fled to Strasbourg, then to Blois, and finally to Nayrac, where he found refuge with Marguerite of Angoulême, the Queen of Navarre and a protector of humanist refugees. The world of the 16th century was a dangerous place for those who dared to question the status quo. The church and the state were often one and the same, and they used their power to silence anyone who threatened their authority. Intellectuals like Erasmus and Lefebvre faced constant suspicion, hostility, and even violence. Some were executed, others were tortured, and many were forced to flee from one place to another, seeking safety and a place to continue their work. But despite the dangers, these humanists continued to write, to teach, and to spread their ideas. They believed in the power of knowledge and reason, and they were determined to make a difference. Erasmus's life and work are a testament to the courage and resilience of those who stand up for what they believe in, even when the stakes are high. In a world where fear, malice, and ignorance can often prevail, Erasmus's story is a powerful reminder that the fight for a better world is always worth it.